Let's step up to the firing line and talk about that old school wheel gun sitting in your safe right now. Maybe you have got a well-worn blued service piece catching dust on the top shelf, or perhaps there is a hammerless snubby riding in your appendix rig at this very second. We have all heard the endless chatter at the local gun counter. The tactical crowd loves to aggressively claim that this century-old brass is just a nostalgic paperweight. They will look you dead in the eye and tell you it is completely obsolete in our modern era of high-capacity polymer strike-fire pistols. Some folks genuinely believe this caliber is only good for casually punching paper on a lazy Sunday afternoon. They think it will completely fail to stop a threat in a lethal force encounter. As someone who has sent thousands of these rounds downrange and carried them defensively, I can tell you that is complete and utter garbage. Today, we are taking a sledgehammer to the absolute worst internet rumors surrounding the *38 Special. We are diving deep into terminal ballistics. We are looking at actual, street-proven data from law enforcement gunfights. And we are facing the harsh mechanical realities of carrying a revolver in today's tactical landscape. If you are betting your life and the lives of your family on a 5-shot cylinder, you absolutely need to pay attention. Grab your iPro, and let's get into it. Number 7. The weakness illusion kicking things off at number 7. We need to tackle the massive misconception that this cartridge lacks the necessary punch for self-defense. I used to completely buy into that ballistic gel snobbery myself. That was until I started heavily researching the historical load data. If you roll the clock all the way back to the black powder era, they were packing 21 grains of propellant behind a massive 158-grain projectile. For the late 19th century, that was laying down some serious muzzle energy. When the firearms industry transitioned to smokeless powder, the physical dimensions of the brass never shifted, and neither did its primary fight-stopping duty. Modern shooters get completely obsessed with kinetic energy calculators and raw muzzle velocity. They completely ignore the brutal physics of mass and momentum. Throwing a heavy chunk of lead at 775 feet per second absolutely wrecks soft tissue and shatters bone. It hits the target like a runaway dump truck. When you combine that heavy projectile with modern jacketed hollow point technology, the slower speed actually becomes a massive tactical advantage for the defender. It dramatically increases the dwell time inside the threat. That allows the bullet to perfectly mushroom and dump every single ounce of its kinetic energy exactly where you want it. Is a 9mm flying faster out of the muzzle? Absolutely. But when you inspect the actual wound cavities, the visual difference is nowhere near what the tactical forum experts confidently claim. A heavier, slower round lets you hammer controlled pairs directly into the A zone. You never have to fight the vicious muzzle flip associated with a high-pressure defensive load. In a chaotic life-or-death gunfight, accurate hits will always trump a loud bang. Number 6. The Snub-Nose Accuracy Lie. Moving on to number 6, let's talk about the hardware you might actually be carrying, specifically the Snub-Nose revolver. Every keyboard commando on the internet loves to say short barrels cannot group to save your life. They dismiss them as belly guns, only useful at extreme grappling distance. I used to parrot that exact same nonsense to my students. Then a grizzled, retired detective handed me a battered J-frame and told me to focus hard on my front sight. The absolute truth is the firearm is incredibly accurate. It just does not forgive sloppy shooting fundamentals. When you hack a barrel down to 2 inches, your sight radius practically disappears. That means if your rear sight alignment is off by a tiny fraction of a millimeter, your impacts will be entirely off the silhouette downrange. Mechanically speaking, that snubby locks up and shoots just as precisely as a full-sized 6-inch duty revolver. The actual malfunction is the shooter violently jerking the trigger. Now, you do sacrifice about 12% of your muzzle velocity when running a short pipe. That translates to roughly losing 100 feet per second off the chronograph. Running bargain bin target ammo means that velocity drop will absolutely prevent proper hollow point expansion. The solution to that problem is incredibly simple. You feed it premium defensive ammunition specifically tailored for short barrels. My personal go-to is the Spear 135-grain gold dot. If you aggressively lock your wrists out and execute a smooth, continuous double-action trigger press, that little snub nose will punch out the X-ring just like a service-sized semi-auto. Stop blaming the iron for a software issue. Number 5. The truth about plus P hitting. Number 5. We need to decode that little asterisk plus engraved on the bottom of your brass. Is it just a slick marketing trick designed to charge you more money at the register? Or does it provide a legitimate, life-saving tactical edge? I spent a whole afternoon running various loads over my chronograph to find the absolute truth. Standard pressure *38 Special operates at roughly 17,500 psi. Stepping up to a * plus rating cranks that chamber pressure up to 20,000 psi. You are looking at a solid 10% increase in chamber pressure pushing that bullet. When you are running a 2-inch barrel, that extra pressure spike totally dictates whether your hollow point actually opens up. Without it, your premium defensive round might perform exactly like a solid target wad cutter, over-penetrating the threat. If you run it through a 4-inch barrel, you might squeeze out an extra 50 to 70 feet per second, but you are paying a very steep tax in felt recoil and blinding muzzle flash. Not to mention the accelerated beating your firearm takes over time, if you carry a super light scandium or aluminum alloy frame. Touching off a *+ round feels like aggressively slamming your hand in a car door. But for everyday carry, the ballistic advantage is absolutely non-negotiable. My professional recommendation from years on the range? Stoke your cylinder with that Spear Gold Asterisk Plus, or track down the legendary Asterisk FBI load. That is the classic 158-grain lead semi-wad cutter hollow point. Think of the Asterisk Plus designation like hitting the nitrous button on a drag car. You do not need it to pull out of your driveway to get groceries. But when you are fighting for your life and merging onto the highway of a gunfight, you want maximum horsepower on demand. Number 4. The stopping power fallacy. Number 4 drags us right into the most toxic and exhausted argument in the shooting community. Stopping power. I wasted years of my life meticulously analyzing slow-motion ballistic gel videos. I was desperately searching for a magical projectile that somehow cheats the laws of physics. Here is the uncomfortable reality check for the caliber warriors. When you measure the permanent wound cavity of a premium 9mm, a 45 ACP, and an Asterisk 38 Special, the actual tissue destruction is practically identical. We are talking about a marginal 15% variance across the board. No caliber on Earth is big enough to compensate for a garbage trigger pull under stress. If we look at decades of recorded law enforcement gunfights, the data speaks for itself. That classic 158-grain lead hollow point has anchored more violent threats than almost any modern Wonder 9. It works flawlessly because it punches deep and expands consistently. But let me make something crystal clear before we move on. Blowing a massive, expanded hole through a guy's shoulder will not end a lethal confrontation. A solid chunk of unexpanded lead straight through the heart is vastly superior to a beautifully expanded flower of copper lodged uselessly in a bicep. You cannot buy a masterclass skill set at the sporting goods counter. Survival is entirely about training your software, not endlessly upgrading your hardware. You have to put the dry fire and range work in to hit the upper thoracic cavity under extreme adrenaline dumps. Because a standard 38 to the central nervous system instantly shuts off the threat's lights, while wildly slinging a 44 Magnum into the drywall behind him just leaves you totally deaf and vulnerable. Number 3. The reliability myth. Number 3 shatters the most dangerous piece of gun counter lore ever spoken by an amateur. The absolute myth that revolvers never, ever jam. I am completely guilty of telling rookie shooters that wheel guns were completely immune to malfunctions. Then I had a tiny speck of unburnt powder wedge itself aggressively underneath my extractor star during a high round count tactical class. My trusty sidearm instantly turned into a heavy metal brick. When your polymer striker-fired pistol chokes on a bad round, you aggressively tap, rack, and get right back in the fight. It takes a trained shooter a fraction of a second. When a revolver seizes up on you in the middle of a string of fire, you better have a punch set, a rubber mallet, and a whole lot of luck to get it running again. If pocket lint, unburnt carbon, or microscopic lead shavings migrate under that star mechanism, your cylinder simply will not swing shut. Your trigger will be completely locked out and dead in the water. You also have to deeply worry about fatigue mainsprings and timing issues that throw your cylinder out of perfect alignment. Never get complacent just because your gun relies on a rotating cylinder. You must maintain it meticulously after every single range trip. Always verify your ejector rod has not started unthreading itself under the violent recoil of defensive loads. Treat your wheel gun like a finely tuned mechanical instrument. It is not a magic talisman that guarantees your survival in the streets. It is exactly like a classic American muscle car. It is built incredibly tough with solid steel. But if you blow the transmission on the highway, you are stuck walking home in the rain. Number 2. The reloading champion. Coming in at number 2. This is for all my brass goblins and reloading bench fanatics out there. The Asterisk 38 Special is hands down the most versatile canvas a handloader could ever ask for. I went completely down the reloading rabbit hole with this caliber a decade ago and never looked back. Since this cartridge has been serving shooters for well over 100 years, we have widely published load data for literally every application imaginable. You can seat a 148-grain wad cutter over a tiny charge of fast-burning pistol powder, and it runs exactly like an Asterisk 22 long rifle. You get absolutely zero muzzle rise and surgical precision on target. Then you can completely change gears at the press. You can engineer a punishing Asterisk Plus load utilizing a hardcast lead projectile. Suddenly, you are pushing the ballistic envelope and loudly knocking on the door of Magnum territory. It is also an absolute dream for your wallet. The straight-walled brass practically lasts forever without splitting at the neck. The powder charges are incredibly economical compared to rifle rounds, and if you melt and cast your own lead at home, you are shooting for literal pennies on the dollar. Beyond that, it builds the ultimate tactical training loop for self-defense. You can run hundreds of these mild loads safely through your Asterisk 357 Magnum duty gun. It saves your joints from unnecessary abuse. It dramatically saves your bank account, and it lets you violently drill your trigger manipulation without ever developing a nasty flinch. Think of it as the venerable small block V8 of the firearms universe. You can tune it perfectly down for a first-time shooter to comfortably learn the ropes, or you can aggressively hot rod it for a serious street carry application. Number 1. The Tactical Resurgence. Finally, arriving at number 1. We have the most surprising reality check happening right now in the modern gun industry. This legacy cartridge is absolutely not fading into the history books. It is actually staging a massive tactical resurgence across the country. I honestly believe the endless flood of polymer micro-9s was going to permanently put the Asterisk 38 Special in a museum. I was dead wrong. If you look closely at the concealed carry market right now in 2025, the hammerless snub-nose revolver remains an absolute powerhouse in commercial sales. It is the premier choice for women and folks who require a deep, non-permissive environment concealment option. Why does it still dominate the market? Because under extreme physical duress, you never have to manipulate a heavy slide under tension. You never have to worry about a limp wrist malfunction during a violent grappling situation. And you can forcefully drive the muzzle directly into an attacker's ribs without ever pushing the gun out of battery. Massive advancements in modern projectile chemistry have completely resurrected this old warhorse. Top-tier manufacturers like Federal, Hornady, and Underwood Ammunition are engineering spectacular defensive loads that expand aggressively, even out of extremely short barrels. This caliber brutally fought in the trenches of global conflicts. It heavily commanded respect in the leather holsters of beat cops for generations, and today it is still riding quietly in pockets and purses, aggressively defending American families. It truly is the Swiss Army knife of personal defense ballistics. It might not win you cool points with the tactical Instagram crowd, but it gets the job done violently and reliably. And in a dark parking lot at 2 in the morning, good enough is exactly what keeps you breathing. So the next time you walk past a dusty box of Asterisk 38 Special sitting on the bottom shelf of your local gun shop, do not scoff at it. That brass has a tactical resume longer than your daily commute State 95. It absolutely demands your respect. If you are still actively trusting your life to a daily carried wheel gun, get down in the comments section and let me know exactly what defensive load you are running in your cylinder right now. I want to see what the real operators and concealed carriers out there are using. If you picked up some solid intel from this breakdown today, go ahead and violently smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you do not miss our next deep dive into defensive tactics and firearms history. Stay safe out there, stay vigilant, and always keep your powder dry.